I would say there is a big difference between stage makeup and just like on-camera makeup or for film. Growing up, I was constantly performing on stage for competitive dancing and things like that. So for dance, it was always like bright red lip, very dramatic eyeshadow, like very, very pink blush, because from the back of the room, it looks normal. And it's sort of the same thing along with this dance thing, like no matter how full out you think you're going, sometimes watching it, like from the back, it doesn't look as though you're dancing completely full out. So that's why they always say to exaggerate it, like exaggerate your moves, really like, you know, push yourself into it. And I feel like it's sort of the same with makeup. It's usually way more dramatic. I mean, any sort of like thing that you watch, especially dance. Film is like, there could be a camera right up in your face, and everyone's watching it from the same, like if you're watching a movie, everyone's watching it from the same view. It's the same angle. So I feel like that can always be more natural. But I don't know, I feel like a lot of the time the big makeup is just to, you know, look more animated. It's for the people in the back, you know what I mean? Hey guys, glad you're back for this episode, because in the last one, we talked about in-person makeup, business meetings, auditions, that kind of look. And in this episode, we're gonna talk about on-camera makeup and how that can be a little bit different. What's really fascinating is that the camera lens sometimes sees things a little bit differently than the human eye does. So we sort of have to adjust to that. It's very much so about accentuating your features. And that doesn't necessarily mean tons of makeup, but it requires a little bit more makeup sometimes than just talking to someone face to face, as if in an audition or something. And this is very true for headshots as well. I remember being in the makeup chair while I was on Lab Rats for so many years, and my makeup artist would put makeup on me and I'd be like, wow, this is, you know, a decent amount of makeup. I wonder if it's gonna look heavy on camera, but she was always right. She knew exactly what she was doing. And every time I watched the episode back, it never looked like my face was cakey. It just looked very nice. And because the camera was seeing it a little bit differently, my features were shown very nicely. It was all around a great look. So what I'm about to show you guys is that kind of look so that you can look awesome in front of the camera.
So this look is pretty similar to the last look. We're just gonna amplify things a tiny bit. So I'm actually using this contour shade as an eyeshadow. You can use blush, you can use powder, you can use bronzer, you can use anything on your eyes. And we're taking a blending brush and putting that right in. This color is a little bit darker than that nectar color we used in the last video. It's just a little bit more defined. But it's also not too heavy at the same time. We still want it to look natural, just a little bit more accentuated. So just blend that out really nicely. After this brown color in the crease, you know the deal. We're taking a light color on this brush right here and putting it right on the brow bone. It's not super matte, but it's just the slightest little hint of a glow. And this is a color that we used in the last video on the lids. We can use this again for this look. So just brush that right in the center of the lids, and you can bring that out about 3/4 of the way until you hit that crease. In this one, we're packing on a little bit more. We're using a more dense brush, therefore the color will be more intense. And just take your big fluffy brush, blend it out. You don't need any product on there. Going back in with the contour palette, I'm taking the lightest contour color and using that as a transition color right on top of that darker brown we already did. A little more smoky, but we're still using really natural colors, so it's not too dramatic. Just swirl that around, blend it out, and just keep going back in with that color until you get your desired intensity. Going in with foundation again, pretty much the same way we did the last one. Notice we're using a different brush. We're packing this into the skin a little bit more than we did with the last one, and then using the sponge to pat it in. We really want to cover those dark circles, but we don't want it to look too cakey. I'm not doing it all at once over the face. I'm taking it in sections. Pat that in, make sure you get the chin and the neck. And if you want, you can use a more high coverage foundation. I just chose to use the same one and apply a little bit more. There's actually some foundations that are specifically HD foundations, which are really good for camera. So this one we are gonna use a little bit of concealer. I have this little duo right here, using a little tiny brush to just pat that underneath the eyes. You can use a sponge to pat that in just so that it's really in the skin. Use a shade that's a few shades lighter than your foundation, it'll brighten everything up. You can definitely see the difference between the eye that I put concealer on and the eye that I haven't put concealer on yet. So go ahead and do this on the other eye. This isn't a super liquidy concealer I'm using either. It's more of a cream. I'm also applying this just on the center of the nose. And we're going in with a powder. Again, not baking on this look, still natural, but we're simply patting it on with a normal powder. So you can just put that all over the face. You can use a brush for this. I'm just using the little cloth spongy thing. I just like the way it distributes it. It's being pressed into the skin as opposed to being brushed lightly over it. It gives a little more coverage, which again, is really good for camera. And as you can see, I'm going back in with a little brush. Barely any product on it, but just blending it all out. We don't want any oily spots. Back to this contour palette, taking the lightest color and blending it with the medium color. We're bringing this color down a little bit to define the eyes. In the last look, we did no color under the eyes. But this one, it's okay to define things a little bit more. Taking our beloved contour palette, blending a few of the colors together, and doing the contour, which is also something that we didn't really do in the last video. You're just adding shadows, natural shadows, with these colors, brushing it on super lightly, because on camera it looks really natural. And again, doing it on the forehead, tiny bit on the temples, doing that natural C shape, and using this really pretty peach color again. Put on some blush. You do the same thing as before, brush it onto the apples of the cheeks, and flick it upwards. Okay, it's that time again for brows. Just running a spoolie through it real quick, clean up the hairs. And I'm pretty much just gonna do the same shape as I did before, maybe a little bit more square. But again, this is total personal preference. You can go darker for the camera, you can keep them the same. The only thing I really do is just change up the shape a tiny bit and maybe darken them by half of a shade. And for this, I definitely want some brow gel because I don't know how the light's gonna hit my eyebrows on camera, so I don't want any of that blonde hair to come through. And with our highlighting palette, take this big fan brush and just a little bit of highlight on the cheekbones. Again, we don't know how the light is gonna catch our face on camera, so you want to accentuate the parts that are higher on your face. Same places as before, Cupid's bow, nose, cheekbones. You can even brush a tiny bit on your brow bone. And now it's onto lips. Instead of just putting on a very sheer, almost lip balm color for this, I'm gonna define my lips a little bit more. I don't want them to get lost on camera within my foundation or anything like that. So I'm taking the color that I used in my everyday look, because it's a really pretty color, it's a little bit darker, but it's still really natural. Especially for someone like me who doesn't have a whole lot of color to their lips anyway. I like to do this for camera. And like I did before, I'm just filling it in with the lip liner itself. So as you can see, this look is really similar to the everyday look, but it's a little more natural. We didn't use any dark browns, any eyeliner, anything like that.
It's really different being in front of the camera rather than being with someone in person. When I see you guys next time, I'm gonna show you how to achieve perfect brows and if high-end products are worth all the hype or if drugstore products can do the job just as well. I guess we'll find out. See you then.
We are ready for you, Kelly.
Be there in a second. You're strong. You're awesome. You're the best. You guys, I'm shocked. I wasn't expecting this award. You are a tree.